everyone, welcome back to the podcast A Girl's Guide to the Music Business, the place where we celebrate women who work in the music industry with me, your host, Shay Green. From live events to publishing, we are giving you the ins and outs of what it's like to be a woman in music, with helpful advice given along the way. On today's episode, we have live events promoter Lucy. Lucy recently graduated with a degree in music promotion and during her time at university, founded the live events company Whatsername UK. Whatsername is a company dedicated to creating safe spaces for women in the music industry, share stories highlighting the issues faced in a male-dominated industry. Starting as a magazine, Whatsername have branched out and hosted events featuring amazing guest talkers, live performers, and showcasing their brilliant merchandise. They are also eco-friendly minded, which is always appreciated, going through lengths of hand-making paper for their posters, for example. We couldn't think of a more fitting company to have on our podcast, and it was a great pleasure talking to Lucy today about her work she has done with Whatsername since graduation and what plans they have for the future. Always let us know what you thought about today's discussion. You can find How Does She Do It on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube at How Does She Do It Pod. Thank you for listening and on with the episode. Welcome to the show, Lucy. How are you?
Hi, yeah, really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, amazing, thanks. So, tick off the show with best question to start off with. How did your journey in the music industry begin, really? And where are you with it now?
Right, so where it began, I guess, I've been brought up on music, so parents were always going to gigs, shows, all of that. Kind of had to stop when I was born, but reluctantly. Yeah. But then they started dragging me along to shows. I say dragging along, I loved it. And then, yeah, just ever since then, I completely fell in love with music. Wasn't quite sure exactly how I wanted to be involved in it to start with, but I just knew that I needed to be involved in it somehow. So I tried a little bit of guitar for a while and didn't really pick it up, was pretty rubbish at that. Did a bit of photography as well, which I'm still really into. So I do a lot of gig photography at the Joiners. And then I was doing an art course at college and people were sort of prompting like, you know, what you're going to do, like you're going to go to uni. And I just had no idea at that point. And someone said to me, well, you really like art, you really like creative things, and you really like music. Is there not a way that you can combine those somehow? So I was just scrolling through and I found music promotion at Solent, and I thought, actually, you know what, that's really a bit of me. And I just thought, I love organising, I like putting things together. That coupled with, you know, making gig posters and all the promotion parts of it, and then just being in music, I thought, yeah, that's me. That just all clicked into place, and then yeah, that's how I got here. At the moment, so I kind of did a little bit of work at a few venues. Did my uni course here and put on a few shows and then just kept going after uni and thought, yeah, this is something that I want to continue.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, it's nice to hear like you were doing art and then suddenly went, actually, no, yeah. This is what you wanted to do. Yeah. I can just imagine like your parents dragging you along to shows and just you being there like, okay, yeah, this is a vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was brilliant. And then it was them dragging me along to shows changed into me dragging them along to shows because of the 14 plus and all that, like parents under 14 and stuff. So it was like, Mom, can you take me to this show?
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah. It turned into me dragging them. So.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So now it's time for the awkward scenario.
Okay.
So this is where you're going to tell us an awkward scenario, yeah. And the listeners, you're going to kind of hold off to find out the answer at the very end. So do stay tuned throughout the episode, and then you'll find out how Lucy resolved her awkward scenario. So if you want to go ahead and tell us what it is.
So this was just completely, it just stumped us completely. So we were doing our uni course and we wanted to put on a show. That's what we wanted to do for our first kind of point of this project. And it was just so overwhelming. But we were getting everything up together. We'd found a headliner band from London, really kind of vibed with them, thought they were great. We'd just kind of got a main support band sorted as well, and we were just then looking for local support bands. So everything was kind of put in place. I'd made posters, like I was just posting it out everywhere, doing all the social media bits and pieces. And we started to sort of twig the fact that the main support band, the main band, sorry, headliner, they weren't really doing much on their end. So we announced it, they shared our post, and then it was just radio silence. And we were thinking, oh, okay. So we sent them a nice email. We just said, that we've put this contract in place. Part of that contract is that you need to be doing promotion as well. You're coming from London. Like, we get that not a lot of people might want to travel down, but you're not actually putting it out there, so they're not aware of it. So we kind of prompted them to try and do a bit more promotion. And then that was sort of a few weeks before. And then about 5 days before, this was when we were kind of thinking, oh, we're on 10 tickets. It's not doing very well. What do we do? And they kind of made that decision for us, because about 5 days before the show, we got an email saying we've had a band meeting and we're not gonna play your show.
That's awful. Yeah.
Such short notice. That was that. So we were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was very, very, very awkward.
Yeah, I can imagine, and just so last minute. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always better to have a little bit longer notice with those things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
But yeah, and then you'll tell us at the end of the show how it got resolved.
Yes,
okay, amazing. So we'll carry on with the questions. So how did you discover that promotions was the sector that you wanted to go into?
So as I sort of said, like, I was doing art at college, found the sort of description on the uni course and thought that kind of combines everything that I like doing. I'd also been asked by a promoter at the Joiners, so Ricky at the Joiners, Southampton sort of famous person, I guess. So he asked me to do some photography after kind of seeing some of my photos online. And then I kind of then got to see a little bit of behind the scenes for the first time. So I used to come down a little bit earlier while they were setting up and things, just so that if it was a sold out show, I didn't have to queue and I could get to the front, take good photos and everything. So I got to see a little bit of the setup there. And then, that coupled with finding the uni course and having a bit of a research into exactly what that might entail, I just thought that's exactly what I want to be doing, like just seeing them set up. And by that point, ages ago, I'd realised that being on stage wasn't for me, for various reasons. Being not good at music was probably the main one. I just thought, if I can't be on stage doing it, then I want to be behind the scenes helping get that on stage and get that sort of get those shows running and that. So
amazing. I think it's really interesting how it emerged from doing photography, not just going straight into the promotion sector, actually having a slightly different avenue first. So you spoke about attending Solent University. Did you find it beneficial, and did you feel like you gained additional skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So it mainly for networking, to be completely honest. And I know the argument that everyone says is like, oh, you can do networking without going to uni, but actually the people on the course, the lecturers, like everything that I experienced throughout uni, it was just a massive, massive help. And having that sort of support and getting those people in and doing those talks, I was then going up to them afterwards and getting their contact details, and that led to sort of all sorts of other bits and pieces. But yeah, definitely really, really sort of useful. There were obviously, there are parts sort of that I haven't applied yet, or they sort of, it all depends on where you go afterwards. So I kind of mentioned contracts before, and it was really sort of not pushed on us, but like contracts were a big thing. And I thought, oh God, like contracts, it's going to be a major, major thing. And the first time I sent a contract out, I think the band went, what? What's this? And I was like, oh, okay, you don't do contracts. That's okay. Yeah. I think that, but then again, I've worked in a venue, and the manager was previously a manager for a club. He then is now a manager of a music venue, and I had to explain to him how to do a contract.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it is definitely useful in that regard. Yeah. But, yeah, they're not something that I've done loads of. But, yeah, networking, I think, is the main thing that I've kind of taken out of it, and confidence as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you know what? personally, I think networking is so fundamental
Yeah.
in like the music business, just all together.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, it's good that you've been able to build connections through university. But I can't believe how many people didn't realise contracts are a thing.
Yeah, I've had loads of them sort of just go, what's this? What do I do with this? And I'm like, well, you read it and sign it.
Yeah, I was going to say, just read and sign,
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely mad that he was then like, I think it was the Versus deal. So he was like, oh God, they're asking for a guarantee and Versus 80% of the profit. And I was like, that's kind of normal. Like that's pretty standard in the music industry. So he was just completely baffled by it, and
educating people higher up than you is always an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we know a little bit about Whatsername UK, just like here we personally know about it. It'd be great if you could tell our listeners a little bit more, like how did you found the company, and how did you build it over the recent years?
Yeah, of course. So it kind of started as like a fake company, I guess. So it was part of a uni assignment. It was actually to do some video podcasts. And part of the assignment was sort of to have a little bit of a like company surrounding it. So I had a habit at uni of just going like just way over what was asked for. So they were asked for kind of, a little bit of company surrounding it, and then the video podcast being like the main part of it. I did like the name, the logo, I created social media accounts, I created like this whole kind of value system around the company. And I just thought, wow, actually, why should this be fake? Like, I really want this to be a thing now. Like, I've put so much time into it that I just want to create this now. So I kind of fell in love with it a little bit. And then other uni assignments came up, and they sort of said, if you want to continue what you've already done, then you can continue the name. So we then had an assignment that was 3 media pieces, and one of the options was a magazine. And again, I just thought, wow, I've never done a magazine before. Coming from an art background, I just thought, wow, this would be really, really, really good. So bearing in mind, this is one of 3 things that we were asked to do. I ended up with a 60-page printed magazine that we ended up selling. So I just kind of run away with ideas a little bit. And as I said, we got so much traction from things like that, like especially the magazine, that I just thought, why not make this real? People seem to connect with it. People seem to like it. I think the values that I kind of came up with for it as well, people just kind of connected with. Like we're sort of similar to you guys, I guess, in the fact that we're kind of highlighting and illustrating like the inequalities in the music industry, but we were also there to kind of celebrate them as well. So the whole point of this magazine was it was for International Women's Day. And it wasn't to be like, look at all this stuff that we have to deal with, look at all this rubbish that we have. It was actually like, look at how much these people have achieved.
Yeah.
Like, look at these amazing people in the industry that despite all these inequalities, they've done all these amazing things. They've powered through it. They've had people tell them, oh no, like girls don't play guitar like that. You can't be signed to our label or whatever. And they've then gone on to say, actually, you know what? Who cares? I want to continue doing this. This is what I love. And then I'll tour in the country. So it was just, it was really just to connect with that. And then it kind of evolved. So we realised that actually by kind of having this highlight of all the women in the industry, that we were kind of in a way excluding other minorities and other people. So we just completely opened it up. And we thought, we just want to be a company that everyone feels comfortable with. Everyone wants to come to our shows because they enjoy what we're doing. They feel safe, they feel comfortable. So we just completely kind of ran with it, and it's just expanded so much now.
Yeah, amazing. Celebrating women, but then making it a safe space for all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. So how did you come about going from it being a magazine to it becoming like something like a promotional shows and stuff like that?
So I guess it was because that was something that I wanted to do. And although we kind of had this idea of keeping the magazine going, we then started to think about environmental aspects. So we were thinking, oh, maybe it's not the most environmentally friendly to keep printing all these magazines all the time. And then, to be completely honest with you, it was a case of there's just so much work to do by trying to do a magazine and put on shows and do all these other things, that it actually was then like, okay, we want to focus on putting shows on. And that was just solely because that was something that I wanted to do. I was interested in doing that. So yeah, and then talking to all these artists and bands and things, I was thinking like, oh, just imagining lineups being put together and like just seeing all these things fit into place, and yeah, it just kind of came from that.
Yeah. It loops back into the networking as well. Like you would have networked for the magazine and for other projects.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you already had such a great network to apply for running it as like a promotions company.
Yeah, exactly. We interviewed other promoters, we interviewed bands, we interviewed photographers, just everyone across the whole industry, and it did then create this massive network for us. And we had then other people kind of coming to us and saying, oh, like we saw your magazine, or such and such told us about this, like can we get involved, can we do the next one? Like we had a podcast for a little while as well, and it was just word of mouth by that point, and it was just expanding so much. So it was amazing.
Yeah, I was literally, as soon as you said word of mouth, that's what I was thinking. It's like so quickly, and it's good as a reflection on you guys as well, of how positive the word spread and how it just became so popular just from that, really.
Yeah, it was really, really early on as well, that because one of the things that I least enjoy are the emailing bands, and just so many of them, because the amount of emails that you have to send out for just that one gig, it's not those 3 bands that you send an email to, it's loads. So that was like the bit that I least enjoyed. And as soon as I then started getting emails saying, oh, we've got these 2 bands, can you put a show on for us? I was thinking, this is great. I'm just having them come to me now. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I don't think most people are a fan of emails, but it's when you have to chase the bands up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's been a couple of days, like we were saying with your awkward scenario, and it is that chasing up factor as well of emails. So carrying on with the talk of promotions, have you found the promotions kind of sector to be biased or like a male-dominated part of it?
I mean, I would say to a certain extent. Unfortunately, it's kind of across the industry. So I think the most major thing I've noticed is, so like I'll have people, kind of friends and that, some of them are from Reading, all across the country, and they'll sometimes want to come down and support a show. But because they're travelling so far and it's nice to catch up, they'll say, oh, do you mind if I come down a bit early? And they'll just sit with me and kind of help set up a little bit, or just kind of keep me company. And I've had it before where I've had a male friend come down. They've just been kind of sat around. They kind of asked, oh, do you want me to go get you some water, some food or whatever? And I've had like the bands turn up and the technicians and things turn up. And I've noticed that they kind of gravitate towards my friend, and they'll start introducing themselves. They'll start talking about like, the technicians will maybe ask like, oh, what's the running times, or like they'll start asking them questions, and I'm just kind of sat there just like, I'm the one running the show, like, hi. And like my friend is really good, obviously, like they'll always say, oh, sorry, like, you know, this is Lucy, she's from Whatsername, she's the one running the show, I'm just here to kind of support or whatever. But it is interesting to see how they kind of gravitate towards the male in the room.
Yeah, it's always quite frustrating as well, and like especially like you've got like sound technicians and the bands, if they're all male as well, and you're just kind of there and you're like, you know, I'm a part of it as well. Yeah,
I'll be like typing away on my laptop doing some work, and they'll just be like kind of hovering around like drinking their drink or whatever, and they seem to gravitate towards that person rather than the one, you know, doing some work.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the promotion sector as well, how have you found the recovery kind of through and after COVID? Because I feel like the industry's just started to come out and recover.
Yeah, just about. So I guess we weren't particularly doing like a lot of shows throughout COVID. Our first show was February 2020, I believe. So yeah, we've kind of not massively seen kind of the progression of it, but I'd say that I think we were all in the music industry expecting like this massive boom of wow, we've been locked inside for so long, let me out and get all these shows going again. And we were expecting kind of loads of ticket sales and all of that, and we're still just kind of here waiting for it a little bit. Like, we've not seen that kind of massive rush for it. And I think people just got used to being inside. We've now got all these like streaming services, games, the cost of living, all of that. It's just all these factors, and then being used to being inside for so long as well. It's like getting people to go outside again is still very real. And I think to start with, it was a lot of sort of worry about health, obviously, people being a bit worried about being in a crowded room again, and the possibility of the band cancelling last minute because they've got COVID, and like buying these tickets and not even knowing when or if the show is going to go ahead. So that was really, really difficult. And I think one of the major things that has changed is that advanced ticket sales are just completely down. I've spoken to other promoters as well, and across the board it's just completely down because people are waiting to the day or the day before to see whether the show's even going ahead, whether they're feeling 100% and even wanting to go at that point. And there's all these sort of factors, and it's waiting to the last minute. And as a promoter, it's just so nerve-wracking because you'll be looking at your tickets thinking, I need to get more to even break even at this point. And especially for our level, it's then thinking, oh God, we're going to be £100 out of pocket, £200 out of pocket. We need to get these ticket sales up. But then you're like, well, we don't want to cancel it because on the night they might just completely fly. Like, we have people walk in on the door all the time. We've had sort of 10, 20 people walk in on the night. So that's just completely then taken us over that break-even point. But it's trying to figure out, do we cancel it? Do we risk it? It's really difficult.
Yeah, literally, as you were saying, it's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you're almost gambling on people just showing up and last-minute ticket sales now.
Yeah.
But then you've got the issue, as you mentioned in your awkward scenario, with like bands cancelling last minute because of ticket sales. It is still happening now.
Yeah. I was going to say we're in a lot better position now, but it is still very much a thing, unfortunately, and we're still kind of climbing out of that a little bit.
So now it's time to give you a question from our previous interviewee. Okay. So I'm just going to find it, so it's been kept a nice secret. The question is, who do you look up to professionally and why?
I think I might have to go for a couple here. So I'm going to start with another promoter. I don't think she gets enough recognition. So her name's Jodie Bowie. We did a little podcast with her. We interviewed her for the magazine as well. And she does a festival at the 1865 called Nosfest, and she has sold it out year after year. She's just amazing. She works really, really hard. She does it all by herself as well. She's just one person putting on this festival every year, and as I said, she works incredibly hard. And I think across the board, promoters don't necessarily get a lot of recognition, and that's not what we're here for anyway. But people kind of go to a gig and they don't think, oh, it's such and such putting on this show. Like, it's just a gig, it's just their favourite band or whatever. But I think she's just incredible. She just works really, really hard, and she's got this amazing festival going, and it's really good to see.
Yeah, as you said, looking at people that maybe aren't thought about and recognising and celebrating them for that reason. Yeah, incredible. So the festival sounds great as well.
Yeah, it's really great. She just, I'm just so happy for her. Every time I see that little, like, sold out, I'm like, oh, yes, she's done it again. Yeah, it's amazing. Really good to see. And obviously, like, coming from kind of my level as well, and, like, putting on shows and things like that, like, seeing her sell out that big of a venue as well, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So the other one that I have that I want to mention is actually a band. So it kind of links into my answer as well, but I won't sort of give any spoilers. But the band is Hunting Hearts. They're a local band. They just work incredibly hard. They really do just believe in what they do. So they're very much in sort of the LGBTQ plus community. So they just completely believe in what they do. They've got this amazing sort of loyal following. they just, I just can't even put into words. Like they are just really amazing. And you can really just tell that they really do believe in what they do. They've massively helped with Whatsername as well. They've gotten our name out there. Like, I get artists come up to us and be like, oh, such like Devin or Beck or like, Hunting Hearts has recommended you guys. And like, we always talk about like the show that we've done with them previously as well. Like any gig that we do with them, every time they're just like, wow, amazing. Like the atmosphere that you guys bring and the atmosphere that they bring, like we just kind of bounce it off each other. And we always get this amazing like crowd and just group of people come together. And it's always just a pleasure to work with them. They are just the easiest band to work with.
Oh, amazing. It's really nice to hear that like really positive relationship, like almost like a dreamy relationship between promoter and band.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They helped us sort of get more into the community and more into like the scene as well. So we've got like a little group now of artists, promoters, venues, all sorts of things, and we're all kind of sharing these values and kind of all have the same mindset. And it just means that like we can say, oh, last minute bands pulled out, like we need a support slot for this, like anyone up for it, anyone free, and you'll get one person say, oh, like, we're free to do it, or do you mind if we kind of improvise a bit, like we've not done this before, one of our members can't come or a couple of our members can't come, so we're going to try something a bit different, and we'll go, yeah, like why not, let's do it. Like we support each other. Like we just have this little community where everyone just supports each other, and it's really, really nice. And Hunting Hearts kind of brought us into that and welcomed us into it, and yeah, it's just massively helped us loads.
Yeah, they sound fantastic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah. So now is your time to write out a question for our next interviewee.
Okay.
So I will give you a bit of paper and this pen, and then you can write out the question. I won't look. And it'll be kind of kept a secret until the interview reads it. Amazing. So now it's the final question. Do you have any advice for our listeners wanting to get into music promotion and the music business itself?
I would say the main thing would be perseverance. It's difficult. You kind of hear it. Like I remember sort of having talks and people come in and say, it is really difficult to get into the industry. Like we've had people kind of say, oh, I had to work at Starbucks while I was doing this on the side, and it takes you so long to get to a point where that is then going to be your sole job. So perseverance massively. Like you're going to get people that don't see eye to eye with you. You're going to get people that just reject you. You're going to get people that might not be necessarily nice to you, unfortunately, but equally then you're going to get these amazing moments. And every time I have a show and there's just a moment within that gig where I'll be stood at the back and I'll be thinking, this is why I do this. Like it's just those moments that make it all worth it. So I'd say perseverance, resilience as well. You need to be able to bounce back. You're going to have rubbish gigs, you're going to have ones that don't do very well, or you're going to have moments that don't go to plan, or whatever it is. And yeah, if you don't have that resilience, it's going to be really hard to get into the industry, because you just got to keep going. But yeah, and then networking as well, getting yourself out there is a massive thing to get into the music industry. Like it's who you know massively. yeah
I think quite a lot of our questions have kind of looped back into the networking part of it. And it just highlights how fundamental it is. And like, you've got to put yourself out there and put yourself in uncomfortable positions.
Oh yeah, massively. I remember sort of being in first year and the lecturer saying, like networking, it's so important, and me kind of going, oh, I don't like talking to people, I don't like putting myself out there, I'll just hide behind a laptop or I'll hide behind whatever and it'll be fine. And then doing the magazine and getting those interviews, and then being in person, putting on those shows and actually kind of having to talk to people, I realised that it's really not that bad, and my confidence massively grew during uni as well. So I would say, even if you feel uncomfortable, I think the biggest thing for me, especially when we kind of had talks in, was I don't know what to say. Like I don't know how to start the conversation. I don't know what to do, but just start the conversation. Like you'll be surprised at the flow of it, and it will likely just kind of be a normal conversation. Like they're not scary people. It'll literally just be a case of saying, hey, like just ask a question or just ask them how they are or whatever, like whatever it is, as long as you sort of start that conversation. Or even I think one of the first people that we got in, I literally just said hi to them, how are you? And then just said, can I have your details? And I didn't say anything else to them. I didn't know what to say at that point. And then we emailed back and forth for ages, and they helped me with assignments along the way, and I got to ask them questions for gigs and things. And if I hadn't have broke that sort of barrier of saying hello, then I wouldn't have got that advice, I wouldn't have got that help or anything. So yeah, just put yourself out there.
Yeah. I think it's great advice. Mm-hmm. Now, we have reached the point of awkward scenario answer. So if you want to tell us remind us of the awkward scenario and then just tell us how you resolved it.
Okay, so first ever gig, first ever Whatsername show, first ever gig that I've ever put on. At this point, we have a headline band from London and a main support. We're still trying to find local bands at this point, so I'm emailing left, right and centre, anyone and everyone that I can think of. And 5 days before the show, the headline band pulls out. This is to the point where we've kind of prompted them, you need to do a bit more promotion. They've kind of done a little bit, but not to what I would have liked. And 5 days before, they say, had a band meeting and we've decided not to go ahead. I sometimes don't know when to quit. I don't know when to stop. So I was talking to my lecturers, I was talking to the venue promoter, and sort of explaining the scenario. And I had all these people around me saying, it might be time to cancel. It's 5 days before, you're on about 12 tickets. You need to know when to pull a show. And I sat there thinking, okay, like it's a good learning experience. Maybe I'll just kind of think of some way of spinning this. So we were coming up with like, anyone that's bought a ticket, they get discounted tickets for the next show we put on, or they get discounted merch, or we were trying to come up with something because I just thought I was letting people down. So we were coming up with all these things, and I think I even got to a point where I'd made a poster saying cancelled. And then I had an email from Hunting Hearts, and I had asked them to be a support band, and they were like, wow, we wanted to come to your show anyway. We were just going to come as like gig goers. We would be absolutely honoured to support you guys. I just kind of sat there reading that email, and I thought, I'm just going to go for it. So I emailed back and I went, our headline band has pulled out. Do you want to be a headliner? Do you want to step in and do that? And they just, they completely like stepped up. They sent us all their assets. They just sent us a link that had everything. It had their stage set up, everything to send to the technician. Just absolutely everything that I needed, all in just this one link that they sent me. And I just thought, wow, this is so easy compared to what we've been doing so far. And we went from 12 tickets to about 65 in those 5 days of announcing. And I just was completely blown away. And as I said, they're just so easy to work with. So obviously by this point we had our headline band, we had our main support band. And then because I'd sent so many emails out, I'd then got a couple back who were available to be a support as well. So then we had Mackenzie Barris. He did a little acoustics show. He was, I think he was at college at the time, and he was literally posting all over his Instagram, doing little videos of his friends being like, where are you going to be on Saturday, whatever the date was? And his friend would be like, at Heartbreakers for this show. And he was videoing our posters up at his college, and it was just amazing that all these artists came together and promoted our show in those 5 days better than the band that we'd had previously did in months. I think another thing in terms of obviously you need to know when to pull a show sometimes, and there's going to be scenarios where things don't work out, but actually that's where the perseverance comes in. I'm so glad that I followed my gut and just went for it, because it kind of kickstarted Whatsername properly. That was a really good turning point for us. It just opened up so much.
Yeah, amazing. Now, we have reached the last part of the show. It is at the end. So, honestly, thank you so much for joining us here. I've really enjoyed having you. It's been great. The conversations have been great.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to give Whatsername a little plug for our listeners on social media?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Whatsername UK on Instagram, Facebook. We've got a gig on the 26th of February. We have one that's not announced for International Women's Day, so save the date, 8th of March. So yeah, just follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We post all our events there, but we've got lots coming up this year, and yes, it's going to be our year.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm sure we'll come down to the gig and support you guys. So yeah, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.
We have now reached the end of our show. Thank you all for watching and listening. Do make sure you come back for the rest of the episodes, a new one dropping every other week. We'd love to know your thoughts and feelings about today's discussion. You can find How Does She Do It on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube at How Does She Do It Pod. Let's all celebrate the great women shaping the music business. From us here at How Does She Do It, see you soon for another exciting episode.